Hello everyone, my name is Ifigeneia Gianne, and today we're going to talk about how we can bring activism into our daily lives. So 2 years ago, I found myself in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia for the first time. I was part of a group of 10 students participating in a study abroad program that focused on migration and forced displacement. Each day, we walked through different neighborhoods, trying to talk to people who had traveled to Malaysia illegally about their everyday lives as undocumented refugees. I carefully transcribed their stories in my little yellow notebook, and after a month, we had returned to the United States, but I couldn't stop thinking about the people we had met. So now what? I remember asking myself. A friend and I began revisiting that question, poring over our notes and reflecting on everything we had learned. We kept coming back to the local learning centers we had visited. I don't have a dramatic story for you about a single moment that inspired me to return and advance our original work, because this desire didn't emerge overnight. It took time, reflecting and thinking together with my collaborator about how we could give back to a community that had so generously shared their stories with us. In a sense, we felt a responsibility for the stories that were now in our notebooks and our memories. We knew that these weren't our stories to tell, but we wondered, could we help students share them on their own terms if they wanted to? My collaborator, a musician, and I, a theater maker, decided to use our skills to create a curriculum for the students, one that would help them share their own stories. And that is how my project, Creative Play, was born. Building a project from the ground up was as exciting as it was overwhelming. We drafted countless proposals, redefined our mission more times than I can count, consulted mentors, and learned how to face rejections. After 3 months of refining, we brought 3 additional members onto our team and solidified our goal: to return to Malaysia and facilitate art workshops with the students themselves. It was an ambitious plan, but it did feel necessary because we believed that our physical presence would help us better understand their students, their learning styles, their strengths, and their weaknesses. We decided workshops around storytelling, asking a fairly simple question: what is a story and how do you tell it? And we used theater, music, and podcasting as entry points, and in preparation, tested our methods with kids in our local community. After being awarded the Davis for Peace Scholarship, we were able to return to Malaysia in June 2024. And that was the first phase of Creative Play. So picture this: 3 schools, 4 weeks, 350 students. Every day from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. We were sweating, quite literally, running around parks, drawing and playing music with kids. No matter how prepared we thought we were, actually being there and doing the workshops was a completely different experience. It tested us in ways we hadn't anticipated. We had to figure out how to work with each other under pressure, how to adapt to unexpected challenges, and how to carve out space for our own needs to be met in such a packed schedule. I'm not going to lie to you, it wasn't necessarily easy. After each long day, we would write back and talk. And those conversations continued over dinner. We talked about what we felt, what motivated us, the students, and the adjustments we needed to make in the workshops. But there's one conversation I particularly want to tell you about. So one night, I mentioned to my collaborators that I felt good about the work we were doing. 2 of them nodded, but one of them disagreed. They argued that if our motivation was just to feel good about ourselves, there would be other things we could be doing with our time. And that comment stayed with me for months, because it made me question whether that I was feeling good with the work we were doing made me less altruistic. Even now, as I share this with you, there is a little voice in my head asking, are you all going to think that I'm doing this for the wrong reasons? Growing up, I thought altruism was about helping others at a personal cost. As I got deeper into this work, I realized that this kind of altruism is a privilege, not just because it assumes that your needs are already met, but also because it demands a level of selflessness that isn't sustainable. I believe that personal satisfaction and passion are not the enemies of altruism. They are what makes it possible. The fulfillment I felt wasn't a sign of flawed motives. It was what kept me showing up. And this personal tension between satisfaction and altruism forced me to reframe how I understood activism. Moments like this weren't the only things pushing us to think critically about our approach. During one of our podcasting workshops, we introduced a conversation about names, and we asked students to reflect on their names with us. Since the group was older, we also introduced a conversation about identity, how names are often given to us by our family and carry history and meaning, yet shape us without necessarily our consent. After the workshop, one of the students came up to me and asked, "And what is wrong with that, teacher?" And I remember being caught off guard, because what was wrong with that? In framing the discussion the way we had, we were projecting our own assumptions, shaped by our own liberal arts education and ideas of individual autonomy. Without realizing it, we had brought in a framework that might have felt irrelevant to their experience. And this moment reminded me of the importance of humility in activism. Even with the best intentions, our assumptions can and probably will still seep into the work. It's easy to believe that the methods that we have learned, questioning, reflecting, and challenging, are empowering for everyone. But for this student, their identity exploration had nothing to do with the origins of their names. Experiences like that underscore for me why thoughtful activism requires listening, adapting, and being willing to learn from those we hope to support. Activism is a privilege, but not necessarily in the way you might be thinking. It's not reserved for people with endless free time or money. The real privilege lies in being able to act, to make the decision to devote part of your resources or time into helping others. It's about recognizing what you have to offer and using it responsibly. When I raised this question with one of the school leaders in Malaysia, he pointed me to a verse from the Quran, which is a central source of knowledge for the community. You will never attain piety until you spend from which you love. For the community I worked with, giving wasn't about abundance. It was about responsibility tied to one's faith. It was about showing up with what you had, not waiting until you think you have enough. I don't intend to romanticize the process. It's not always easy and it's not always pure, but maybe that's the point. Activism isn't about being flawless. It's about showing up, listening, and working alongside communities, not for them, but with them. I want you to take a moment and think of the following question with me. If you had unlimited resources to devote towards a project that would matter to you and would help a specific group, what would that be? Returning to the importance of intentions, I believe that intentions do shape your actions, but also that good intentions alone don't guarantee meaningful outcomes. What matters more is how you act. Are you involving the community? Are your efforts sustainable? In creative play, we ask those questions constantly. We knew our workshops would end after 4 weeks, so we extended our work by training the teachers and offering online lessons because we wanted our impact to last beyond our physical presence. My experiences with creative play also taught me that the rather cliché phrase, change doesn't happen overnight, is quite accurate. Change happens through consistency, persistence, and a willingness to adapt. So I'm going to take you back to the question that I just gave you a moment to think of. And I'm going to tell you about my experience when I started thinking of creative play. So when I first asked myself this question, I started with what I knew. What am I good at? What does this community need? And how can I provide it? And that's when I began thinking about creative play. It wasn't just the stories that I told you at the beginning. It was also deeply personal. I thought about what I have needed in my own life, spaces where I could express myself, feel seen, and grow through creativity. Those reflections became not only the foundation of creative play, but also my own personal source of motivation and inspiration. As you think of the project that you just imagined, ask yourself the same questions. What have you needed in your life? What has inspired you? When I posed this question to some of my friends, one of them shared a dream about playing soccer with kids in Costa Rica. Another one mentioned returning to their home country and supporting sex workers. And here's what I realized. Every single answer somehow reflected something deeply personal to them. Their experiences, their skills, their values. And I believe that the project that you just thought of does the same for you, reflects your own unique life trajectory. So embrace this feeling and really ask yourself, what do you care about? What are you passionate about? Because that's the best ideas often come from, with what truly matters to you. But here's the most important part. Don't stop at the idea. Research what others are already doing at the area of your interest. Could you contribute to an existing initiative? And then also ask yourself one more time, is this something that the community truly needs? Who can you reach out to? How can you make your project both collaborative and sustainable? So here's my final challenge for you today. Start small, but start somewhere. Commit to it. Think about the project you just imagined. Maybe you can't make it happen in a day, but what's one step you can take today toward it? Research, volunteer, or reach out to someone already doing work in the area of your interest. Commit to it for at least 1 month, and then reflect on the journey. Ask yourself, how did that make me feel? Did I make a difference? How can I keep going? Because that's the essence of change. Taking one step and then another, fueled by your creativity, inspired by your learning, and guided by the communities you hope to serve. Start small and let yourself feel everything that comes with it. The uncertainty, the joy, the challenges, and the growth. Thank you.